Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333 and welcome back to Suzerain. Now, in the last video, we got inaugurated, we set up our background, we're a wealthy man, we're a free capitalist, we want to fix healthcare, we want to do a lot of cool stuff. And hopefully we'll be able to kick things off and get things going. Now, I feel like I have a decent grasp on the early game, fairly well at least. So we're going to go ahead and start her up. We're going to start with checking out some of the foreign policy stuff. We got a report from Velen. First, the Moloch sends his congratulations on the election victory and wish for a cooperative future between Velen and Sordlin, signaling a desire to normalize the diplomatic solution between the two countries. Very well. Next, we got a report from Lesbia. Prime Minister Alvarez congratulated you for the deal and spoke about his hopes to have a beneficial partnership deal in the future. He sent his best wishes to the Swedish people and warned us about the threat of the encroaching influence of United Cortana from the east, emphasizing the importance of unity in our continent, Mercopa. Understandable. We got something from Vogsland. Chancellor Hegel sent his congratulations on a great victory and wished for close cooperation between our countries in the future. Hegel signaled concessions from Vogsland in case of a promising trade deal. He also congratulated the Sorgic democracy for the successful elections and warned us about the threat Arcasia's growing influence poses for Eastern Mercopa. Then we got congratulations from von Hortent, who congratulated us on our elections and praised our party's stance on just and transparent elections. He signals his wishes to continue the trade partnership between our countries as equal partners, as opposed to earlier trade deals which he believed gave Sordlin unfair advantages. Not bad. So let's check out Laren. Low production Aglin. Low levels of productivity and growth in the region of Aglin, while also high rates of food insecurity, malnutrition, rural poverty in the inner parts region. Also have a lack of investment from Arvory. The mayor of Arvory, Eric Neal, reports a lack of adequate infrastructure around Arvory, which seriously undermines the attractiveness of Arvory's investment climate. Foreign investors, particularly from Magnolia, are becoming hesitant to invest in the city. Meanwhile, according to the data published by the National Business Council, around 19% of the company's total expenditure in Aglin is absorbed by logistic cost, while in peer regions, this figure is below 10%. Well, let's check Latchavin. The latest maritime traffic reports show that the port of Latchavin is no longer the busiest of the Mercopa continent, falling behind the third position. While this is a negative indicator for our administration, Latchavin still has the potential to shine again as a major trading center. The port of Latchavin is the largest port of Sordlin and holds enormous importance for the economy, particularly as a main distribution center linking the capital and parts of Sordlin to the rest of the world. This major port city will hopefully keep supporting a possible economic upturn in the entire country if investment projects succeed. There we are. You have the capital, of course. I'll read stuff from Wholesword. The mayor of Wholesword reports that the rising population, fast urban expansion resulted in high levels of congestion of the city traffic. Logistics reports underline increased traffic and slow transportation routes as the biggest problem of the capital. The mayor also reported that the absence of a well-designed large land-based logistics center where all transporters come together is one of the greatest problems for domestic transporters, because Wholesword is a big metropolis. Transporters are scattered all over Wholesword, having established such centers in 10 different districts. A lot of stuff going on. We also have the general staff convening right after the election, congratulated a victory. All branches of the SAF were represented in the meeting that took place in Camp Strongarm with massive security measures. The chief of the armed forces, Vulcan Kruger, made a public press statement highlighting the increasing chances of military confrontation in Eastern Mercopa and requested support to strengthen the military. Got a lot of requests and stuff like that. We also have the news. I don't know how much I'm going to want to read the newspapers. So I'll probably just read the headlines and give you guys a second to skim over them, just because I know I'm going to do a lot of reading already, so I kind of have to save my voice a little bit, and I don't want these videos to be too massively long. Although, does that matter too much? I don't know. Well, Rain spoke of change and hope. Next, let's check Swordland today. President Anton Rain. Kibner, NFP, congratulated us. The PFJP didn't concede until the last minute. Go figure. And then we got a lot of people rooting for us. New assembly duty. Very dry sort of presentation. The Communist Party and the Workers' Party both seem to have fallen apart. Or they didn't make it into office, rather. We have 52% of the seats of the Grand National Assembly. Not too bad. We have under 30 seats. The Reformists have 70, the Nationalists have 40, and the Independents have 10. Good to know. The Radical, they're not happy about another USP president. And the Economists, they want us to restructure the infrastructure. And then end Solonomics, which is more of a planned economy, centralized at least. Well, there we go. First, let's check out the country overview. We'll just kind of check some of this stuff up. We have a court backlog, limited women's rights, the Bludish problem, which is ethnic minorities, judicial rivalry, we have some human rights, and we have freedom of the press. Not bad overall. We have weak transport links, an unemployment crisis, tax evasion, decreased trade volume, the economy in Bergia is plummeting, Lauren has a rust belt, Agland lacks investment, we have stagnated production. Not nice overall. We have a military interference in politics, outdated military equipment, internal security, jurisdiction, large reservist pool, but experienced generals. We have an overburdened welfare system, low-quality rural healthcare, inaccessible rural education, an inconsistent curriculum, soulless education, but good urban economics. Order, we have corruption, illegal immigration, and organized crime. That's just not nice. Then diplomacy, we have Rumberg expansionism, a lack of allies, influential OMEC member, and we have some pretty experienced diplomats, actually. Not bad. Also an OMEC and an AN member. So there we go. Also check the political overview. We got Vectorn, Lucian, and all these people who we will meet as we kind of move along. Mr. Manager. You can read up on all these people. Let's check the factions. We have the Old Guard, the Solace from the old administration to defend the status quo and promote conservative policies. Some claim they established a deep state that controls the state apparatus. They're led by Hawker. We have the oligarchs, the few powerful elite who control the majority of the wealth in Swordland. Influence both in and out of Swordland has been growing due to privatization efforts in the past. So we got Tusk leading them. And then the Reformist representative of the government united under the calls for democratic reform. The previous years they've been gaining popularity since the failed rule of the previous government. So they are led by Richter. Legislative, we got 130 seats. Decent amount. Great speakers, Tory. We also have this guy, NFP guy, and Manson Leak, who leads the independents. Judiciary, we have some old guards, centrists, and reformists. Hawker leads. We have some pretty notable justices, Garachi, Edmonds, as well as Nia Morgana, who's also our Minister of Justice and Law. So, we got that going. We can do a briefing on the current political situation and a briefing on the economic situation. Let's start with politics. Peter Vectorn arrived a couple minutes early and sat across from me. He was struggling to hold back a smile. We did it, Anton. We won. Finally, all those years with our noses to the grindstone paid off. Peter's eyes sparkled. The strain of the past months had put a damper on his usual raucous charm, but today he was looking and acting more like his old self. He was in style and undid the top two buttons of his shirt. And joined a new secretary I picked out for you? I thought you'd appreciate a gorgeous set of, talents. It's a shame the rest of your staff aren't as easy on the eyes. He gestured with a slight paunch that protruded over his waistband. But hey, back in university, did you ever imagine we'd be sitting here in the Maroon Palace? We have to celebrate this great victory. We'll celebrate at the inaugural ball. Just hang in there until the evening. Looking forward to it. Evelyn hopes to congratulate you in person there. Good to know. It's been some time since the last time I saw her. I think it was Frank's birthday. We barely had enough time for our families over these past months, haven't we? Peter had a wistful look in his eyes. He Neville had never been able to have kids of their own. During our campaign, the opposition floated the rumor that he'd fathered illegitimate children during his wilder years, but it had never been substantiated. The door swung open, and Lucian Galade, my chief strategist, walked in. He was a compact man with sharp, bird-like features. After briefly surveying the room from wall to wall, he sat down, poured a glass of water, and opened his briefcase in a series of quick, graceful movements. Gentlemen. The tall case clock in the room struck 3 o'clock. Damn, you're exactly on time. Hello, Peter. Lucian then turned to me. He very slightly bowed his head. Glad to see you, Lucian. It's a privilege to be here, sir. Lucian spoke in soft, clipped tones that immediately drew your attention towards what he had to say. Peter and I waited for him to proceed. Let's start by evaluating our current situation. The majority of Sword's people demand change. They're more concerned about the economy than the Constitution, but they blame the system for their problems. People are losing their trust in our democracy. Why do you think radicals like Circus are becoming more popular? Everyone's expecting us to bring the change. The last government did not. Franz Richter, leader of Reformists, believes that true change can only be accomplished by transforming some of our powers to the Assembly. I will move into the details of their demands shortly. Well, I agree with the Reformists. Our responsibility is to democratize the broken system. That's exactly what we campaign for. A true change that'll move the country forward. We will need many allies against the old guards and the government. Mr. Richter managed to persuade many members of the Assembly to give their support for drafting a new constitution. Reformist politicians are quickly increasing in number. While the reformist wing inside our party is still a minority, they could have a tripartisan majority in the Assembly, especially if they unite under Franz Richter. While our party must fall in line with our position, we can't have a strong divide. True. If our party fractures, it's the opposition that'll benefit. The reformist demands are clear. They want to limit the president's veto power, ensure the Supreme Court is independent, and take away the court's right to vote on constitutional amendments. Well, as support reformers, we need a proper balance of power in this country. I agree, we can't ignore the will of the winds of change after all. The old guard will do its best to preserve the Constitution. Chief Justice Hawker and his allied judges have a great influence over the Supreme Court, which will be tough to break. The court also has the final say over constitutional legislation. Without their approval, we can't even change it. We must break the power of the Supreme Court one way or another. I agree. They have too much power for Sword's politics. We need to take away that vote in constitutional legislation. It's absurd that they get to vote for the bills when they aren't even elected. Can't underestimate the situation. We can figure it out. Our party still holds 130 of 250 seats in the Assembly. We got the power. However, to reform the Constitution, we must receive a 2/3 majority in the Grand National Assembly, which is 166 votes, and a simple majority in the Supreme Court that equates to 6 votes. After we've settled on how to proceed, we will need to talk with our party figures. Our first goal must be to get the 150 signatures needed to start the process. Following the green light from USP, we'll reach out to the other party leaders to see if they would back our draft. The last step to convince the justices is to convince the justices of the court. The entire process will take a long time, but we must start working with the Reform Committee to evaluate all possibilities for a new constitution as soon as possible. Well, we'll write a more democratic constitution with the reformists. That's exactly what we've been preparing for eternally. Don't forget that promise is what got us elected. The key thing here is that we will be strengthening the power of the Assembly, which we already lead with a majority. Peter nodded in agreement. Yes, the division of power needs to be rebalanced for a better Swordland. According to the initial draft we made with the reformists, there are two changes to the Constitution that are not open for their discussion. Oh, that was Lucian, not Peter. My bad. First, the Supreme Court will no longer vote on constitutional amendments. Second, the President's absolute veto will be taken away. This can be replaced with a limited veto system by fixing the current loopholes. Well, I have no problems with these clauses. Let's work with the reformist. Yes, sir. We'll form a reform committee together with all parties and start reaching out to all the stakeholders in the Assembly and Court for a new constitution. By later in the year, we should have an idea of the reform contents and what the other parties want. Another important point, we must be aware of the Lotharberg group. The oligarchs convene under this organization to influence economic policies. Conrad led it for a long time before falling ill. The new leader is Mr. Walter Tusk. According to the reports, some members of National Business Council are in their pockets. Tusk and the group will surely try to bribe us in exchange for special economic protections. I won't be bought. It won't happen. Alfonso said the same thing. I doubt there was anyone else to turn to in his case. As far as I know, Marcel Coronti has some strong ties to this group. His influence could definitely be an asset to us, but I'm sure he'll want something in return. The group's dependent on our economic policies. They can't move a finger without us. I wouldn't be so optimistic. The capital they represent could do a lot of damage if it was diverted. We need to tread carefully on all sides with all power players to survive our term. I need to underline the seriousness of the situation. The military and general staff are a powerful element in the state. And this history tells us a dangerous one too. We have some room to make structural changes by reducing their budget, for example, but it is quite limited. I want to receive the advice of the military before making up my mind. It is sound to listen to them, but they have a very biased and narrow opinions. Patriotism clouds the minds. General Kruger's effect over the past. Defense Minister Josef Lancia is more loyal to us compared to Kruger. A fact that obviously can be changed with our actions. Either way, I see potential rift between the two since they are clearly of different minds. If we act strongly against the military, both of those guys will unite against us. I agree with Lucien. We need to agree carefully here. We need to tread carefully here. Well then, gentlemen, precisely 30 minutes. This concludes our political briefing for today. Our next meeting will be about media strategy. Talk to you soon. I will keep in touch. See you both at the next meeting. Lucien and Peter bid the farewells and left. A mysterious amount of smoke was rising far away in the horizon. Uh-oh. Let's see what's going on in Deer. The region of Bergia is among the worst-hit regions in Sorlin, where homelessness has skyrocketed since the economic recession. The number of homeless in the city of Deir is more likely to have increased by 25% in the last year. The rise was particularly stark among Bludish people, where homelessness increased by 72% in just 6 years. It is reported that homelessness among ethnic minorities has reached the highest level in more than a decade. The Bludish minority in the region now accounts for up to 47% of all homeless people there. Yikes. We have some news, namely fire strikes Whole Sword State University archive. Oh no. That's not good. It burned for 8 hours. And then a committee for reforms. Gloria Torre says a committee which includes all 3 parties of the assembly has been formed for the preparation of potential changes for the assembly. That's good. Support and assembly rules for campaign finance bill. Social National League starts session. Okay. This looks like some football stuff. Then Runeberg coming south. Not good. We'll have to be careful about these guys. They didn't wish us a congratulation after all, so we gotta keep an eye on them. Let's see, public opinion report. People's views on the need for democratic reform and government structure has changed over the last decade. Reformist propaganda from leader of the EFJP, Franz Richter, resulted in massive increase in demands for democratic reforms. It's estimated that currently 55% of the population supports the reformist ideals. Well, there we go. Also have an HSU fire. Fire broke out in the academic administration building of HSU. The initial report from the chief of police in Holsword indicates a near-to-complete destruction of employee records from 1890 until now, along with original copies of internationally recognized academic research, was destroyed. The extent of damage is worse than expected. Oh no. Let's do the economic situation. Simon August Manager and Lilius Graff were about to arrive at the White Room for our scheduled economy meeting. This was a room in the Moon Palace where all important meetings were held. Two assistants arrived first, carrying the heavy projector. They stood with it by the door, waiting for the ministers to enter. From the hallway I heard Lilius Graff's voice. She was using the patient, almost motherly tone she often took in heated arguments. Gus, do you really think that such an economically advantaged area is in more need of investment than Aglan? Lilius, my interior minister, strode in. She was clad in shades of brown and beige, only spotted color of bright yellow near a star on her necklace. Gus followed close behind. Don't be an idiot, Lilius. Oh, that's probably more so. Don't be an idiot, Lilius. What about the unemployment crisis and the greater Holsword and Geslin regions are going through? These areas are our economic heartlands. Gus curled his hands into fists. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development's temper hadn't changed since his days in the Alfonso administration, but neither had his reputation for getting things done. His far-reaching network connections was unlike any other. Simon Old quickly stepped between the two ministers without looking at either of them. He cleared his throat. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone. I am very well motivated. Or, how are you? I'm very well motivated, Mr. Rain. It seems our ministers are feeling the same. I can clearly see that was a discussion about. We're having a discussion about the infrastructure plans. If I may, I would like to talk to you about the... We will get there, Gus. No rush. First, I would like to conduct my economy presentation. Well, let's begin. I'm looking forward to this. Simon pulled out a silk handkerchief out of his pocket and briefly wiped his glasses. My staff and I have comprehensively analyzed every aspect of... It was interrupted by a groan from one of the assistants by the door, both of whom were now visibly struggling to hold up the heavy projector. Oh, you can put that there. He pointed towards a painting of President Sol. The assistants placed the projector next to the table and installed a white screen on the wall. Leave now. I mean, thank you, and please leave now. The assistants left the cabinet room. I was reminded that Simon had never quite had a way with people, but his facility with numbers had made him the most sought-after economic specialist in Swordland. Simon started looking for his slides. He always carried documentation around with him. Well, wait a second. Simon, what happened to the new police station construction in S stored? While going through his briefcase, he paused for a moment and answered. It got stalled due to a government property boundary issue. I have been meaning to look at it. I can take a look at that one. S store needs all the security help it can get. Sure, more time for me to spend on analyses. His eyes glittered when he finally found the slides he was looking for. There have been some developments about the sword of Suzerain losing further value today. We've been trying to stabilize it with central bank. Recession of 51 put enormous pressure on the economy, resulting in the collapse of the value of our currency. The entire situation was a significant cause of concern for our administration. Since economics is your forte, Mr. Rain, it is possible that you might already be aware of the data. I can still explain the current economic situation in better detail. What's the status of recession? The economy has been in recession, about -6% in the past year. The average GDP has dropped from 15,000 per capita to almost 10,000 from 51 to now. This administration's success depends on our ability to stop the recession. The sooner we can reach GDP growth, the better. GDP and debt situation. Current GDP is at 310 billion Swedish yen. National debt is 427 billion. It's still hard to fathom that we lost nearly 150 billion in wealth. The past 3 years were tough. What's our unemployment inflation rate? Unemployment skyrocketing is now at a staggering 16%, and inflation is relatively high of 7%. Unemployment is increasing crime and drug use. We need to get people off the streets. The inflation isn't helping our average citizen either. I have all the information needed. Let's move on to the economic strategy. Simon scattered the papers stacked in front of him in an orderly manner and took a final look at his notes before clearing his throat. As you can see, the situation is alarming, but not everything is a negative. The extensive privatization program of Alfonso left a large budget surplus, which we can use to stabilize the crisis. The primary subject we need to settle on is what general path we need to take in our term. Solonomics-based nationalization happened in the 30s, and Alfonso's privatization begun during the end of the 40s. What will our administration focus on? One of the main promises was to promote a free market economy to stop a recession. To be frank, I believe it's the only way out of the recession. I still do not support it. Why promote the private sector when you have qualified state-owned enterprises? Because the lack of competition has made them inefficient. Well, humanity in the 20th century is thriving because of the rule of supply and demand. Agreed. Look how quickly Lesbian and Arcasia have increased their prosperity by embracing these basic principles. Switzerland has potential to do so as well. Why don't we take our potential seriously? Integrating heavily into a market economy would work if we had the extensive means of production our industry is lacking. The structural problems with Solonomics were going to lead to a recession according to predictions at the time anyway. Either way, even if we pick one of the doctrines, we retain the option to make economic choices on a case-by-case basis. That is, however, not recommended in my point of view. The last thing we need is a chaotic economic plan. Finally, something we can both agree on, Lilius. There is another important issue which has a direct impact on our economy: superpowers. We might have won the election, but I'm still against aligning ourselves with any superpowers. Economically speaking, we're much closer to Arcasia than the United Cortana, so a decision to align to the west makes more sense. We must be very cautious. There are schemes being devised about Swordsland. We cannot give in to their wants now or in the future. Otherwise, our country will turn into a pawn. I want you to reconsider your promise to align with Arcasia. Made a promise to the people of Swordsland. Actually, entering the sphere of Arcasia will boost our economy in many ways. They are wealthy and influential. Exactly. I like to think of it as a very valuable partnership. With the deals we'll get by aligning ourselves with a strong country like Arcasia, recession will surely end in no time. In return for what? Swordsland's independence? When time comes, I hope you will make the right decision. For our own good. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Minister Whiskey will be in charge of informing you on these types of foreign policy decisions. We must first decide on our eternal economic plan. Simon put forward a legal document outlining the possibilities of both economic doctrines listed. The cabinet members looked at me. Well, let's finish what Alfonso started with capitalist free market reforms. His path was going to enrich Swordsland. The recession was a direct result of his free market reforms. History must note that the reason for the recession was because Eduardo Alfonso was betrayed by his party. This is not true. There was plenty of time for him to do it. If you can't make change happen in 2 years, then you are at fault. What's our long-term economic schedule? Picking a construction company, trade relations, tax reform, and privatization initiatives would be some of them. Sticking to a solid planned economy strategy would be the right call. The 5-year plan was fruitful in the past. Wouldn't a free market focus bring us stronger allies? It would make Arcasia look at our country in a more positive light. They are proponents of the free market economy. The influence Arcasia has on the world economy is extensive. Our economic strategy should be based in internal reasoning, though. Well, let's move on. What are your final thoughts then, Mr. President? A free market economy doesn't require as much guidance and could help attract foreign capital. Especially from Arcasia. President Walker is already interested in expanding the economic zone of the ATO, who could secure lucrative investments from capitalist countries. So what will our general economic plan promote? Promote a free market economy, as we promised. I can't say I agree with this. Now that there is clarity on which direction we are heading, I will work on a good plan accordingly. This concludes our meeting, and next we will talk about the upcoming infrastructure investment plan. Now that the economic direction was taken, the ministers dispersed for lunch at the Maroon Palace. Excellent. See, Swordsland had their economy meeting in Whole Sword. Agreement free market. Freezing temperatures recorded. Ooh. Schools will close for this period. Lucky them. I only had my school closed because Well, the smoke, because I live in California. It catches on fire all the fucking time. Nationalist violence. Man's choice been beaten with baseball bats and paramilitaries. Ooh, that's not nice. An economist. Let's see, we have the Armored Industries pioneering electronics. Interesting. Looks like we have a couple options. We have media strategy still. We also have Morna report. Let's check this out. The number of people filing for unemployment in Morna continues to rise as the recession continues. The change in economic conditions is historic and stunning in its speed, says the mayor of Morna. The aftermath of the crisis of 51, the unemployment rate in Morna rose to 9% the following year. The past 6 months have almost erased all gains in employment over the last 2 decades. Uh-oh. Next we have Lundberg. The recent collapse of the tourism industry in Lundberg has led to a reduction in trade tariffs, and traffic, and road maintenance. The road network is currently in service, but is in need of substantial improvement. Ports, country roads, and bridges are seemingly to suffer from a lack of investment. Firms doing business in Lundberg report a significant shortage of warehousing facilities, particularly refrigerated facilities, with implications both for the transportation system and the ability to serve the population's basic food and health needs. Uh-oh. Report from Gelsord. The recession led to reduction in real assets, with more than a fifth of the railway network, itself antiquated, being mothballed in the recent years. While the main lines of the railway network are currently in service, increasing demand and goods from Gelsord of capital is pushing the network to its limits. The rail signaling system in the region dates from the middle of the last century. It is also in need of improvement. Next, let's report from Sarna. First time in 3 years, the agricultural output of Sarna has increased. Many experts link the increased output to both a drop in temperatures and new farming practices that have been adopted in recent years. Additionally, farmers are now accessing more generous credit allowances from the government that were left over from the Alfonso administration. The Ministry of Agriculture reports that the region's agricultural industry has the potential to become a powerhouse in the future if the investments persist. So we can decide in mega infrastructure. So let's see what we got. The Ministry of Economy has put forward 2 bold plans for mega infrastructure projects that would help the economic recession in the long term. Investing in projects of a scale would take up some portion of our budget, but could prove worthwhile if accomplished successfully. Let's invest in a mega infrastructure project. So I believe we can... Yeah, we can discuss potential stuff now. So on turn 1, just checking. The view towards the Markian Sea from Latchaven was nothing short of exquisite. The seaside state residence, fittingly named the Blue Mansion, was large, fine, and accommodating. But enjoying the luxurious mansion wasn't the main reason of our visit. We gathered the economic team here to discuss a new infrastructure investment project. Half an hour had already passed since the start of the meeting. Unfortunately, I did not even have a chance to have my usual afternoon coffee. Looking at the view from the windows, I let my mind drift for a couple seconds. Simon's voice brought me back into the ongoing discussion. Mr. President, we need to focus on boosting the economy as quickly as possible. One of the fastest ways to achieve this is through infrastructure projects. Agreed. On the one hand, businessmen are complaining about the slow logistical rail network between Holsort and Latchaven. Let's start talking as soon as Simon took a breath. On the other hand, citizens are criticizing the lack of a proper highway connection between Latchaven and Arvori. The narrow roads by the seaside are not only dangerous, but also difficult to traverse. Well, if citizen demands matter the most, we need to pick the most profitable option for economic growth, which is obviously connecting our 2 most economically powerful cities. It's not the business people that suffer, but the ordinary folk. What really matters, though, is that we can accomplish something tangible in your first economic act. Let's improve our administrative capabilities. People must know what the administration can get things done. Therefore, I defined 2 important projects for your attention. The H3 Highway Project and the L1 High-Speed Railway Project. Mr. Olber positioned himself on the chair to take a more comfortable position. The Ministry can only support 1 project at a time with the current capacity and budget. Let's move on to the details of each. What do you want to hear about first? Let's hear about the highway. The H3 project aims to improve the abysmal state of the road network in the Anglian region bordering Agnolia. The region is home to several million Anglo, Sordish, and Sordish who feel neglected. There are no proper highway connections to and from Anglian. The mayor of Arvory, Eric Neal, has been asking for a bigger budget to develop a regional infrastructure. He told us that even trucks are having a hard time traveling through the main roads. Increased traffic is causing trouble for the people commuting in and out of the region. I agree, this could also hurt the local businesses. It is, bless their souls. I'm happy we're thinking alike on the matter. Let's take a more detailed look at the upgrade proposal. Lilius was pointing at Latchavan over here. The H3 highway route starts here and links to Lenkurg. From there it goes all the way to Arvory. As a result, the road network towards the Agnolian capital, Stalport, will improve substantially. She paused and leaned forward in her chair. I saw the central government continuously neglect the Agno-Sordish-dominated regions when I was mayor. Is this administration going to continue that kind of negligence? We should no longer neglect a key region for our trade with Agnolia. Yes, sure, but most goods flow to Latchavan and Holsword will give importance to logistics there. It has to be pointed out that the highway project would be less beneficial in Deniatum. I'm starting to get my accents mixed up a little bit. I'm trying to keep them straight. I have to disagree. It will increase the speed of transportation throughout the region. Our citizens will be quite pleased if we successfully accomplish this. Besides, if we enter trade talks with Agnolia, they would see the investment as a positive sign. Let me hear the other project. This is very interesting, but could you tell me about the railway project? Your predecessor, Alfonso, has failed to deliver on the campaign promise, but now we have the opportunity to start construction on the groundbreaking railway project. As you know, our current trains cannot meet the standards of today. As many other countries adopted this new electric engine technology to power their trains, we fall one step behind. News about the new electric trains in United Cortana has peaked for business interest. They too want to transport resources and materials from Holsword to Latchavan with great speed and efficiency. Major cities of Swordland need more infrastructure to support the growing population. This should be our priority: growth and development optimization. Our plan is to upgrade the old L1 line from Holsword to Latchavan. It will transform to a high-speed rail. So Holsword to Latchavan, going through here. Okay. The planned construction starts right here at the capital. It'll go to Anrica first, and then connect to Gelsword. After which it will reach Latchavan, our economic powerhouse. The L1 will significantly boost the economy on the newly linked cities and even the rural areas in between. Latchavan is our primary port, so the goods unloaded there will be transported to Holsword much faster. Investments in already developed areas makes little sense. I completely agree. Our attention must be diverted to needy. The H3 makes more sense. Mayor of Anrica, Curtin Lest, also requested this project be prioritized. Businessmen in the region will be very content, which increases investments in employment. Therefore, I will recommend the L1 high-speed railway project. Well, I've settled on the decision. Yeah, I've settled on the decision. Excellent. What will the final choice be, Mr. President? I think I'm going to do the highway. I'm going to do reformist. I'm still leaning capitalist, but I still want a bit of that, do better for everyone. I don't want to quite say populist, because that kind of, implies I'll stick more of these swords than the bloods, but, you know, helping people out a bit more directly. So, I've decided on the H3 highway project, improving the structure in our poorer regions. Thank God, I knew you would see reason. The negotiations will begin in the middle of the year. You'll be able to award the contract to a corporation of your choice. The ministry estimates that the entire construction will finish in 2 years if every step is going forward is executed correctly. Thank you all for your contributions and thoughts. See you soon, Mr. Rain. Have a nice day, Mr. President. Evening settled on the beautiful coastline of Latchavin. Got that done. Now let's do our media strategy. Let's see. Turn 1. I can look at this in the next video, actually. Lucian and Peter arrived in my office to talk about recent developments in media strategy. They both took their seats across from me. Lucian put on his reading glasses and quickly went over some documents. Peter turned to Lucian and nodded. Greetings, gentlemen. I have just received further information from the interior about the sudden fire that broke out at the HSU archives nearby. Tell me more. The initial reports from the Holsworth police indicate a potential arson case. In accordance with further suspicion, the Swedish Intelligence Directorate has been called. Is the SID really necessary for this? Why would anyone hit the archives of the university in the first place? I see no logical motive there. Seems like the chief suspects foreign sabotage. They informed us that a large section of the archive has been destroyed. It includes tens of thousands of our globally recognized research documents, original by the great thinkers of our people. It's a shame so much knowledge was lost. Luckily, most originals have copies in other universities and some international libraries. My favorite book's original, The Geopolitics of Sorlin by Herman Eckwa, was destroyed too. Maybe it was just a fire accident. We do have the copies of most of the important work, so no single fire can eradicate our knowledge. I also see no point in destroying employee records either. Most importantly, Lucian mentioned that Marcel Coronti contacted him. I don't think there's supposed to be a comment there. The Corontis had always been known as one of the richest and most influential families in Sorlin. Marcel Coronti was no exception. He was the oldest of Conrad Coronti, the industrialist and media mogul who founded HOS, the richest man in the entirety of Sorlin. Lucian turned to me. He's offered to meet with you, Mr. President. Why should I meet with him? After the passing of his father, may he rest in peace, Marcel aims to be the next CEO of the HOS conglomerate. He mentioned a productive collaboration. They are a powerful and influential media conglomerate. To start with, they own the Sorlin Today newspaper, the Swedish Broadcasting Corporation, which means it would be wise to have them by our side. Sorry for interrupting. What does this productive collaboration entail? He did not wish to explain the details over the phone, but rather in person. I believe I'm receiving a call from him sometime soon. However, as Peter said, they have substantial power over the content of media outlets, headlines, radio shows. This is what he would be offering. What he wants in return is what we need to understand. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we need to determine our general approach to media. I'm no media expert, but Lucian made some very interesting arguments at the preparation meeting yesterday. There are two ways we can approach the media. One of them is by influencing it, which has clear advantages. The other one is keeping it independent. Well, the media is a tool to be used. I agree, media plays a huge part in adapting public opinion towards our views and policies, while helping us avoid damage from scandals or mistakes. While I do acknowledge that this will sound a bit harsh, I certainly believe our perspective, knowledge, and expertise will allow us to have superior judgment compared to the average Swedish citizen. It does sound harsh. Yes, we shouldn't resort to these measures to solve potential political mistakes. It isn't about that alone, Peter. There could be groups or people who would want to damage us even if we are in the right. Two knocks are at the door. Who is it? It's Olivia, Mr. President. Olivia Suno, my new secretary, entered the office. Her dark curls bounced as she scrolled across the room to my desk. She spoke with a slight lilt in her voice. The fuck is a lilt? Excuse me, Mr. President. Mr. Galad's secretary has been calling me and wanted me to relay a message. Marcel Coronti, his new CEO for HOS Conglomerate, is on the line for Mr. Galad. Well, the ball's in our court now. Would you like to talk to him, sir, or would you like me to? I'll talk to him. Connect the line to my office. Right away, sir. Connecting the call to line 1. Leave left the room and the phone started ringing. Picked up the phone. President speaking. It's an honor, Mr. President. God, I don't want to use my foreign accents quite yet. I know your time is valuable, so I'll not waste any of it. I was just elected CEO of HOS. My strategy in the running of this conglomerate will be different from my father's approach. This was why I'm approaching a partnership deal regarding our media branch. I would like to formally invite you to my resort near Conrad for a meeting to discuss the details. Well, what does that entail? Our future as partners, Mr. President. Surely we can't talk about the details on the phone. I just wish to have a face-to-face conversation about it with you. I will send you the details through my secretary if you are interested. Thank you for the offer. I would be interested in a meeting. You will not be disappointed, I promise. Well, then I will let you return to your packed schedule. See you later, Mr. President. Goodbye. I hung up the phone. I'll set things up right away. Expect a worthwhile meeting next month. It's settled then. Looking forward to next month. I wonder if he has a pool. Lucian looked at his watch. It appears we're done for today. We'll continue where we left off. Thank you for your time. See you soon, gentlemen. Lucian and Peter gathered their documents and promptly left my office. We were already getting the attention of key figures, and potentially dangerous ones. Well, check the news. Suspicious fire ravaged HSU. Interesting. And Conrad Caronti passed away. His son is taking over. HOS. Glamorous inaugural balls coming up. The radicals clearly aren't happy with it. And then geopolitical. Sorlin's regional trade. Sorlin and Bell are natural partners. Got some options. So, looking at the stuff. Probably we'd meet with the new CEO. Let's see if anything's new. Law. We have a reform committee. Economy. We're promoting free market. Having just general, not good stuff with the economy, which you don't like to see. So let's read the report from Holsword. Further investigations by the police department reveal a potential arson case with no identified suspects yet. Police chief of Holsword has voiced concern about the suspected sabotage by a foreign nation, inviting the SID to investigation to expand the investigation. The area is cordoned off from the public to discover further evidence. The Reform Committee reports that any potential change to the Constitution in the direction of reformers will likely result in strong opposition from the NFP. The members of Assembly in support of such direction seem to be in great numbers and possibly make up a majority of the Grand National Assembly, while most members of the USP seem reluctant about supporting such changes. Okay. Well, we have the Electoral Campaign Finance Bill. The criteria for the allocation of public funds shall no longer be according to the number of votes won in the general election by a political party. The new criteria shall be the proportion of seats won by a political party in the Assembly. Political parties shall receive an annual amount of 500,000 ren per member of Assembly. This results in a doubling of the USP election budget and a slight increase in the other parties in the Assembly, while effectively removing all funding from parties that are below the 10% threshold. I'm going to veto this. Got two news. The radicals seem to be happy with us. We can go against our own party when it needs to be done. Well, Richter tried to hold it back and made it to our bill, our desk anyway, and we vetoed it. Not bad. Not bad overall. Still got some decent stuff going on. Though not much change. This is still our first day, though. Ooh. Invest in Arcasian stock companies. We'll go ahead and buy... Let's do 2,000 stock shares. I want to keep a little personal wealth just in case. And here we have the reception at the inaugural ball. I had just finished buttoning my suit jacket when the doorbell rang. The Presidential Guard had arrived to pick us up for the inaugural ball. The ball was a 3-decade-old tradition, breathlessly anticipated by politicians, bureaucrats, and the press. All eyes were about to be on me. I called on Monica to get the children ready. Looking in the mirror, I straightened my tie and took a deep breath. After tonight, there would be no going back. Suddenly, Deanna hugged me from behind, startling me a little bit. Monica fixed her hair into an elaborate braid, woven through with ribbons. "Papa! Mama told me it's time to go!" Stroke her hair. You could be president someday, yourself someday, you know that? "Only when I'm old like you!" She giggled. It was almost time to leave. The big ball was starting in less than an hour. Now, where's my first lady? Monica came down the stairs. She was wearing a simple yet elegant beige sheath dress and short heels. Her hair had been neatly pinned into a chignon, showing off the pearl earrings I'd given her for our 15th anniversary. What the fuck is a chignon? I gotta look this up now. If I can open Google. All those years she'd stayed by my side. Now we're about to begin the most challenging chapter in all our lives. Chignon. Oh, it's a bun. They could have just said a bun. How do you do, Mr. President? I want my her own voice. Let's kiss her hand. Monica, my love, you look as gorgeous as the day we married. Now, there's a charm that got you elected. Frank trudged down the stairs. This thing itches. Frank tugged at the collar of his new tuxedo. He seemed ill at ease. You good to go, Frank? Yeah, the sooner we go, the sooner it'll be over, right? Papa, are these people going to be around us from now on? She pointed the presidential guards at the door of the house. These people are our friends, Deanna. It's alright, baby. They're here to make sure nothing bad happens to your papa or his family. Monica held Deanna's hand. Together, flanked by guards, we walked out the door. After the door, Frank stopped abruptly and tore towards me. Dad, do I really have to go? Couldn't I stay home instead? Hey, I'm nervous myself, Frank, but I'd feel a lot more confident with my son by my side. Frank smiled reluctantly. Well, when you put it like that, sure, let's go. Presidential guards showed us the way as red and blue lights flashed around us. Sergey, my driver, ushered us into our armored limousine. The motorcade started moving towards the palace. I gazed out the window, deep in thought. Hey, Anton, what are you thinking about? I was thinking that we've come a long way together, haven't we? Yes, we have, and there's so much that we'll accomplish, side by side. Just remember, no matter what happens, the children and I will always be here for you. I'm gonna help Papa fix everything! Frank rolled his eyes. I know you will, honey. We'll see, darling. After what seemed like just a few minutes, the convoy slowed to a halt. Sergey rode down the limousine's soundproof partition. We're here, sir. We're here, sir. Hope you enjoyed the drive. I kind of like a New York accent. I can't remember how to do it. Much appreciated. How are you today? Just as good as I can be. But today's your day, so I'm glad you're in charge now. You know, my entire family voted for you. I won't let your family down, Sergey. Oh, I don't doubt that, sir. You're the one who sparked a glimmer of hope in us all. Sergey opened the door for me. The normally imposing palace was festooned with garnished banners that nearly made it look cheerful. A line of shiny luxury sedans stretched around it. Politicians, bureaucrats, and celebrities, the creme de la creme of the Suzerain elite, streamed inside the building. Good luck out there, Mr. President. I'll see you on the trip home. I stepped outside and immediately found myself surrounded by loud voices and camera flashes. Hordes of eager journalists thrust their portable microphones my way. My guards fended off most of them, but one woman managed to dodge them and corner me. I recognized the SBC logo on the pressed lanyard. Mr. President! Mr. President! Do you plan on working together with the opposition parties on the expected constitutional reforms? If the opposition is willing to support us. Mr. Richard clarified that as long as you hold your promise of democratization, they will support you on these issues to the end. What do you think about this statement? I welcome it. This is a challenge for all of us. One question. One of your first acts as president was to veto a campaign finance law that would derive small parties of public funds while increasing those channeled into your own. Are we seeing the beginning of a more egalitarian administration? Yes, no political party deserves to be silenced. That's enough, ma'am, said one of my guards, while nudging the reporter away from me. A path through the crowd was now open, and we quickly made our way towards the entrance of the palace. At the same time, a dozen fireworks went off. The entrance was decorated with beautiful ribbons in Swordland's colors of white, yellow, and maroon. A lush maroon carpet had been rolled down the stairs. We entered the lobby and joined the throngs of people making their way towards the ballroom. Behind me, I heard a familiar voice. There they are, the most beautiful family in Swordland. Uncle Peter! Hey, Uncle Peter, it's great to see ya. You two are growing faster than I'm getting wiser. Are you sure you've gotten any wiser, Peter? Maybe not. After all, I'm still sticking with you. Happy to see a familiar face, Peter. Evelyn! Peter's wife, Evelyn, approached us and shook our hands with a firmness that bellied her delicate features. Congratulations, Anton. I have to say the results were clear to me from the beginning. There's a woman behind every successful man. Oh, what a gentleman. Monica smiled at me. Monica, how are you? You've barely said a word. I'm more than relieved to have this roller coaster ride over with, but of course, now the real work begins. Ah yes, managing the help, planning parties, daily trips to the salon to look your best to foreign dignitaries. Don't be so old-fashioned, Evelyn. I plan to use my powers for a slated advanced position of women throughout Swordland. Equal rights for our sex are long overdue, wouldn't you say, Anton? Absolutely, and we'll work together to achieve that. Monica flashed me a smile. Diana suddenly jumped in between us and tugged my sleeves. Papa, can we go? I want to see the ballroom. Of course, darling. Let's not delay any longer. Let's move to the ballroom. We left the lobby and made our way towards the ballroom. Inside, we were yet again surrounded by a noisy crowd, but this time it was the politicians who sought to appease the new authority in Swordland. I spent the next few hours shaking hands, joining various conversations, some serious, some superficial, and making speeches. We finally settled down at our dinner table with the veterans as the band started playing some slow jazz tunes. That was tiring. What, you're already tired? Well, suddenly, a loud banging noise echoed from outside the ballroom. And another one. And another. The musicians stopped playing. Everyone in the room was looking around in confusion. Peter and I looked towards each other, realization dawning on both our faces. Fireworks? No! Gunshots! As soon as Monica heard the word, she lunged from her seat. Get down! Anton, the kids! Monica, Deanna, and Frank all looked at me beseechingly. I rushed to shield them. Papa, what's happening? I knew it. We never should have gone. Chaos broke out as some guests flung themselves under their tables and others ran towards the doors, screaming. Deanna burst into tears while Frank tried to comfort her, hiding the fear in his own eyes. 3 more gunshots rang out loudly. Mr. President, are you alright? Carl Greiser, head of the Swedish police force, was running towards us with 3 more police officers in decorated uniforms. They all had their guns drawn. As soon as he made it to us and saw that we were unharmed, he let out a big sigh of relief. Thank God. Status report! 1 second, Mr. President. He turned around quickly to his men. Check the perimeter! Now! Paul, Jansen, follow my lead. We'll bring them to the safe room. He now turned towards Monica, Evelyn, and the children, and spoke in a softer voice. Do not worry, the situation is now under control. Please, follow me. We promptly followed Carl through the winding halls and corridors of the palace. His men still had their guns drawn, which did nothing to raise attention. On the way, Peter made an attempt to break the silence. What a fucking night. now, Peter. Carl turned to us with a serious face as we were about to round a corner. Quiet, please. Sorry, I talk when I get nervous. Peter, shut up. Carl flipped a switch at the wall and a panel opened, revealing the hidden staircase leading towards a large reinforced door. Inside, a set of emergency lights flickered on. The safe room was comfortable and spacious, with expensive-looking leather sofas. Small security monitors on the wall displayed grainy footage of each room in the palace. There was a boardroom and a pantry containing enough provisions to last us months. Monica and Evelyn sat the children down and started wiping their tears. Carl stepped away from us and made a few radio calls. When he was done, he returned to me and Peter. What's the status? Carl's radio suddenly cracked to life. Every second felt like an eternity as he pressed his ear to the receiver. When it fell silent, he turned to us. Good news. We're not in any danger at the moment. The situation has been dealt with, and the perimeter has been secured by the guards and the police. He glanced towards Monica, Evelyn, and the kids. If I may, sir. He gestured towards a more private corner of the room and started speaking more quiet. This is what we know so far. We've confirmed that 2 people were gunned down in the front of the palace. The attackers. One of them, we have reason to believe he was working alone. He fired 3 shots at an MP, 1 to the head, 2 to the body, instantly killing him. Presidential guards at the palace immediately shot and killed the attacker. He has not yet been identified and will require an investigation. The MP that was killed was identified as Bernard Circas. This is huge, Anton. This will cause a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Peter rolled out 2 cigarettes and handed me one. He then turned to Evelyn. I could hear him try to reassure her that everything was going to be alright. Monica was still trying to tend to Deanna as Frank paced through, mumbling that he should have stayed home. Comfort Monica and the kids. We're safe. I'll make sure everything's going to be fine. We can't be sure of anything anymore, Anton. I lit my cigarette and took a deep drag. I was going to see this through and keep my family safe. At all costs. I crushed the cigarette on the ashtray. Turn 1 goes on for a while, doesn't it? Shit. Security measures at the Capitol have been heightened after the murder of Bernard Circus. Well, that's, well, it is a Swordfish poet, but not so much there anymore. The Mail of Whole Sword reports that everything is under control. Security around the Moon Palace has increased with the combined effort of the Whole Sword Police Department and the President's Guard. Additionally, the entrance procedures to the palace are being revised with advice from security professionals. Police Chief Carl Greiser reports that investigations have been launched on the murder of Bernard Circus. Swordland today, Rain welcomes Richter's words, an MP shot, nation in shock. Well, the mood of the Situation Room was gloomy. My cabinet members were gathered to discuss the shooting outside the palace. Lilius presented the initial report. Bernard Circus was shot dead at 9:03 p.m. in front of the palace gates. He was an elected independent member of the assembly and, as you know, a famous communist. She spat the last words out with some distaste. The guards at the scene were 50 meters away and immediately took action by responding and killing the assailant, who was identified as a member of the national organization Young Swords. His family were unharmed, praise God. An MP shot near the palace. Absolutely unacceptable. I agree, we are reevaluating our security measures. However, the recession affected my ministry negatively. This sets a dangerous atmosphere where the left versus right political violence of the 1920s might spark once again. A return to those days would be devastating. The coups are the reason why our country stagnated for a decade. Nina Morgana, the Minister of Justice, sighed. The Red Youth have condemned the killings, but didn't stop there. They promised revenge. This will in turn fox further aggression from the Young Swords. The whole cycle began because Bernard Circus expressed his views. We can't simply look away. He had always been one of the only members of the Justice Ministry truly felt deserving of the name. She would have survived countless attacks on her character while fighting corruption within the ministry, and rising to power had only compounded her sense of moral duty. Freedom of expression is part of our Constitution. We can't have anyone, let alone an MP, shot for voicing different opinions. I agree, we should protect freedom of speech. Our laws do, and for good reason. Silencing voices only results in fear and stagnation inside society. We've had that before and know very well how it was. I hear your concerns. Our police force are doing their best to uphold the rights of our citizens. We'll prevent such an act from happening again by making sure our security measures are reevaluated. Minister of Defense Josef Lancia granted approval. He towered towards the rest of us in full military uniform, his many war medals conspicuously on display. Agreed, ma'am. Our gendarmerie will help boost security in the rural areas where possible. There may be more to come. We should refrain from making this issue a political one from the start. We'll only add fuel to the fire. You're right, we need to calm the situation. Our government is capable of maintaining security. Our job will be to reduce tensions. Several police cars rushed past Marine Palace and everyone went silent. Regardless, a full investigation on all involved parties is underway. We'll find the subversives and push them soon enough, Mr. President. I'll do my best to help coordinate the administrative tasks. Justice will be served and the rule of law will return to this country stronger than ever. Only if we stay vigilant as a country. We must think of the upcoming budget. We must not lose sight of our real political goals like the constitutional reforms. Agreed. These matters shouldn't distract us from what the people want us to do. Lucian took some notes after checking the latest newspapers and reports. Like I can highlight them and see what... I think I just noticed this. That's nice. It would seem that the tensions between the communists and nationalists will escalate further. It will be very difficult to pass any meaningful change if there's chaos in the country. We'll make it through this and deliver our promises. Hell yes, President Rain. This will be it for today. We'll convene again soon. Thank you all and keep us updated. This meeting concluded. The ministers left the room with concerned looks. It's hard to anticipate what will happen next. And we can continue, which we will do next time. We'll check the paper real quick. Murder at the Palace. Not nice at all. This concludes turn 1 and episode... I guess this is episode 2. Unless I want to count the first one as a prologue. I'll just say it's part 2. Basically is, anyway. So thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you like this, leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, hit the sub button for uploads every weekday, as well as occasionally Saturdays. If you have any comments, feedback, concern, leave them in the comment section below. I read all the comments. Again, appreciate any feedback you might have for me. If you want to chat, play games, any sort, leave them in the comment section below. I read all the comments. Again, appreciate any feedback you might have for me. If you want to chat, play games, I have Discord. If you want to send bucks every month, I have a Patreon. If you want to see me do this sort of stuff live, I have a Twitch. If you want to just see me do some non-gaming related stuff, I have a second channel. All of those are down in the description box below. That's really it for now, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been Mr. DB333. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.